Hey guys, welcome to your another C programming tutorial. In fact, welcome to level 2 C programming tutorial. And in this tutorial, as I said, we'll be doing functions and and in the second tutorial, I guess I just told you this is a function, and I told you we'll do a whole lot of tutorial on functions, so this is it. So now first let me tell you, modules in C are called as functions. C programs are typically written by combining functions that we write and with pre-packaged functions available. I can take it as like this one, standard library which we took. This is it is pre-packaged with C. It comes with C, and using this C standard library, we have a rich collection of functions using which we can perform common mathematical calculation or string manipulation or input output and many other useful operations. Now functions are used basically to break the big programs into small pieces so that we can use it, and it'll make our job a lot more easier than we think. And it is sometimes also called as programmer defined function because we define it as a programmer. We define what a function should do. Now let me show you a little bit how it should be. Now think, this is you're the boss of your company. What you do is you'll assign individual work to each of the employee. Like you'll assign him to keep a track about the goods you sold, and you'll ask him to check whether the goods will be there in the company or not, and you'll ask him to make the goods. Okay, and he'll have other employees under him who will make the goods. So that is how your function is. You're the boss. You will call, you can do any of it. You can call him and ask uh, about the manufacturing of the goods. You can ask him about the sales or anything like that. The main use of function is you can reuse the code. You don't have to write the code again and again. So that's basically the main use of the functions. So enough of talking about functions, so let's do functions now. Now to start with a function, I'll just write a function before the main and I'll show you later. So now function will have, like, we'll put first int, and I'll just write everything and then tell you. And keep one thing in mind, we'll just make a function to add two numbers. Keep one thing in mind: when you make functions, your function name should be in lower camel case. What lower camel case means is, it's like this. Okay, the first uh, like add the first letter A, it should be small, and the next words which you write, the first letter should be capital. This is called as lower camel case. Okay, it looks like something like camel, so they call it lower camel case. And I'll just tell you 1 minute. Int a comma int b, these are the two variables. Okay, so now what this means over here is, this is, as I just said, it is just a function name. And what this is the return type. Okay, now I want this function to return an integer to the calling function, which I'll just show you in a minute. And what this does is it'll just accept the kind of variables it need. I just expects to get integer. We have just named it a and b. Okay, and make a note there is no semicolon over here. And let's just make a function, and I'll just make a variable inside this function. I'll just call it sum, and I'll initialize it to 0. So what the sum will hold is, it'll hold the addition of a and b, sum of a and b, and I want it to return the sum. Okay, this in the second tutorial I just told you, return 0, it means that it'll just say the system that yeah, the program has ended successful. That's it. And what this return it'll do is it'll return the sum. As we mentioned here, it'll return an integer. Now sum, as we defined, it is an integer, so it'll return the value of the sum. Okay, so we'll come to the main function. As I said, main, this is the main function. Without this your program cannot work, so it'll first see the main function. Okay, so main, I'll just take variables x and I'll initialize it to 5, and I'll take another variable y and I'll initialize it to 4. Okay, now I'll just printf that the sum of these numbers is, and I'll just call that function. It was add, and code block says it'll give you out all the name of the function. Okay, so it was add two numbers, and what I'll do here is I'll just add x comma y. So I said it'll be the value of the sum will be an integer, so we'll have to add a percentile d, a conversion specifier. I just forgot that. So there you go, you'll get the answer as 9. Okay, so now I'll just tell you what happened over here exactly. Okay, so I'll just minimize it. So in the main function, what will happen is we have initialized x and y as 5 and 4 respectively. Then we go to the print statement and we'll ask him to call the function, and what this will do is it'll go to this, it'll see where is add two numbers function, so it'll go over here. The values here for x and y, as we know, it'll be 5 and 4. So what this will do is it'll put 5 to a and 4 to b. Okay, so now a will be having 5 and b will be having 4, and in here inside this it'll be like sum is equal to 0. We have initialized a variable sum is equal to 0, and what we store inside sum is the addition of 5 and 4, which is 9, and I want it to return the sum, so I want him to return the value of 9. Okay, so it'll tell return this again to the one who called you. Okay, so it'll go here, it is an integer type return, so it'll tell, hey, I got the value 9 from this, he returned me the value of 9, so take the value of 9, and it'll just take the value of 9 and it'll print it over here. Okay, so this was what this did to print out 9. Now let me tell you something about function prototyping. Function prototyping is nothing but I'll just show it to you. I'll just copy this line and I'll just paste it over here. Okay, function prototype, it basically tells the compiler that, hey, you'll come across this function later on, if not in the beginning, later on you'll come across this function, and what this will do is it'll return an integer and it'll accept two integers. I've just named it a and b. Okay, now this is what function prototyping is. So as I said, this will just integers as the input. Now there's one more thing I want to tell you. If you don't tell that, if you don't specify the variable name, it'll still work. Okay, because it just needs the type of data type which it'll take as the input. So if you build and run it, it'll still show 9. And by chance, if you just say I'll just write one end, then it won't work. It'll show an error over here, and what this will tell is, hey, you told me there, yeah, I'll come across a function which will just take one integer and you're passing two integers over here, and that's not correct, man. So what this will, so when you function prototype it, make sure that you give this one and this one, both of these should be same. Okay, and now if you build and run it, it'll show you 9. There's one more thing I forgot to tell you. This is called function definition. Okay, because we define everything over here, the return type, the name, and what kind of parameter it takes. So we define everything over here. Now let us make a program that will do the square of a number. So I've just cleaned up everything. Now first we'll mention a function prototype. I'll just call it square, and inside this I'll put a parenthesis and type all this tells us, hey, it'll return an integer and the name of this function will be square, and it will accept an integer variable. Okay, now coming to the main, what we'll do is we'll put a variable, we'll take it as x, then we'll use a for loop and we'll initialize the x to 1, then we'll put x less than or equal to, let's just take it 5 is enough, 5 is good. Okay, and incremented by 1, and then Inside the for loop, what we'll do is we'll just print out the square of the numbers. So we'll use %d, as we'll be using integer. X is an integer. So now here we'll call the function. Okay, this is called function call, and inside this we'll just pass this parameter, that is x. Okay, so then we'll just print a new line after it finishes all this. Print f and a new line. Okay, and we'll end it with a semicolon. So now let's make the function int square. I'll just copy this one and I'll just paste it. Okay, now inside this function, what do we want to do is we wanted to return the square of it, which is also an integer. So square is just multiplying the same number. So I'll just put return, and inside the parentheses I'll just write y into y. So that'll give out the square, and let's just build and run it. So I'll give out 1, 4, 9, 16 and 25, because we asked it to print out till 10. We can do it till 20 and it'll print out everything properly. Okay, so this was the program to give out the square using functions. Starting it'll look a little different, but as we go on we'll do more examples on functions so that you'll get more familiar about the functions. Now as we are left with a little bit of time, I feel we'll just make another example, and I'll just show you how to find out the maximum number of out of the 3. I'll just write the code to save a bit of time. So guys, what I've done here is I've just prototyped my function. I've just told it you'll get a function. It'll be called as maximum. It'll return an integer, and it'll have 3 integer variable which it will accept. Okay, now what I've done in the main program is I've just taken 3 variables, n1, n2 and n3, and I've just prompted the user enter 3 numbers. Okay, then using scanf we just store the numbers, and in the printf statement I'll just call the function maximum. So what it does is by the time it comes to the printf statement, it'll print maximum is, it'll say %d, it'll come here and it'll say, oh, he has called a function. So it'll jump straight away over here, and inside this function it'll give away these values whichever the user has inputted. It'll come over here and assume that x is a maximum for now. It'll check is y greater than maximum. If it is, then we can replace it. It shouldn't be x over here, it is y. And then it'll check is z greater than the maximum. If it is, then replace maximum with z, and then return the value of the maximum, that is an integer x. So suppose we enter 1, 2, 3 and 3 is z. This will be the maximum. It will return 3 over here. So let's just see. I'll just build and run it. 1, 2 and 3. Maximum is 3. So you've got a brief view on functions, and we did a couple of examples. So that's it for this tutorial. If you have any doubt, please leave a comment below on the YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe.